Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the 37th episode of Tales of Tamriel. I am your blazing shield spamming Templar host, Aggelos, and with me this evening we have the Argonian lover herself, Thais. How are you doing today?
What a question. Do you have to be so loud? Oh my gosh. What?
I don't know.
I am very sleepy today.
Very sleepy
Very
today.
sleepy.
Okay. Don't fall asleep.
I will try not to. If you hear a loud thud, it's just my head hitting the desk.
Gotcha.
You can just push me off and let me hit the floor.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Well, you got cheese curls down there or something like that, so maybe I'll push you the other way.
Yeah, push, because I'd rather not have that fork land in my eye socket, so push me that way.
You could wear an eye patch then.
I mean, these forks are really good for seeing forks, but not much else.
Not much else. Gotcha. Also joining us, the man who is running our stream and he who sold his soul to be a slave to the addle-brained queen, Deltia of Deltia's Gaming. How are you today, good sir?
Boom! I'm dive bombing on a Zerg in PvP. I'm doing great!
Excellent. Now, do you like the addle-brained?
That was good.
Do you like that?
Uh-huh.
All right. Figured you would like that.
Very much so.
All right. So, yeah. Now, there's my note. Now, before we get going in the show, I do want to send a special thank you to Mr. Paul Kelson for his generous, not general, donation to the show. We really do appreciate it. Helps keep the lights on around here. It's awesome. Thank you so much. All right, let's go ahead and get into the show. There wasn't a lot of news this week in terms of sheer quantity, but there were some good little nuggets. And of course, we do have our ESO Guild Summit Day 2 that we are going to be talking about. So let's go ahead and get right into it. First off, let's start with TF. So our friends over at Tamriel Foundry, if you haven't been there, you probably don't know much about the Elder Scrolls Online, but you should go check them out. They're a fantastic fan website, and actually the ones who did the Guild Summit that we are discussing. But they actually had a live Q&A session. Deltia, did you get a chance to watch any of that?
Yeah, I did watch the first half. I thought it was great. Well done. It was very professional. They answered a good portion of questions from a different range of perspectives, meaning hardcore, big guilds, little guilds. I thought it was really, really good.
Excellent. Yeah, they had some pretty big names in there from guilds like Entropy Rising, We Kill Bosses, Defunct, Guild Umbra, Alacrity. I mean, these are like our edition of like world first guilds, so it was really, really cool. And they did go over a lot of the questions and stuff that they talked about in the Guild Summit in a little bit more detail. So the group of them got together and really kind of hashed out a lot. So if you get a chance, you should go over to their YouTube page and check out the entire thing. It was definitely worth the read. All right. Next up on news, ESO Livestream happened on, what was that, Friday? Yeah, Friday. So let's see here. ESO Livestream. Fan creation showcase with artist Jeremy, was it Fenseki? Yeah, okay. I didn't get to watch all of it, but I know, Deltia, you got to watch some of it. Do you want to give us a little brief summary about what all kind of happened or what you remember happened?
Well, I have a memory like a goldfish, so that might not be very good.
Oh, a castle! I love castles!
Ooh, bug loss. It was absolutely fantastic. Basically, they went over 1.5, kind of what's in the pipeline for other things. They went over fan creations, not like guides and stuff, but more like role play and music and stuff like that. And then they had an audio engineer on, which was awesome. The dude was really cool. It was like some guy you'd want to have a beer with or something. Talked about what he's working on as terms of sound effects, how to get a job doing that. It just was really cool. The insight, it made you feel like the developers are just like you and I, which they probably are. They want to play the game. They're gamers at heart. They're not business people in the sense like they're wearing suits and ties and making decisions solely for profit. I really believe in these developers. And these things like this, most of them came over from different games. One particular game which I loved in the past tense, Star Wars, the Old Republic. And they were so tight-lipped about everything. They never told their people anything, what's coming on. Everything was a big secret. This is the exact opposite. And if you're new to MMOs, this is refreshing. Blizzard doesn't do this, and they have all the money in the world. This is really refreshing to get an insight and have them be open and honest with their community. And it was very positive. A lot of people were watching. I know all of our guildies were. And one of our guildies, Java Who, they answered her questions. So that was kind of cool.
It always is exciting when one of the developers acknowledge you. You're like, oh, that's me.
Oh, my God. Oh. Yeah, so it was fun.
Well, I know one of the things we could talk about briefly is they did a little preview for Update 5.
Oh, it's awesome.
Before we talk about Update 5, I'm going to press on everyone who listens to our show, and you go tell your friends who don't listen to our show that A, they need to listen to our show, and B, if they're playing ESO, that they should jump on the PTS.
And C, go to deltiasgaming.com for all your latest guides and news. Joking.
All of that. So remember all of that, and then go jump on the PTS, because they really need to get some testers on here. Specifically, like before the last patch, which is arguably, Delta, you may or may not agree with me, I think that was one of the largest content patches they've done with the most diversity in things that they released. And if it wasn't for the PTS contest for Dragonstar Arena to get to meet a developer, that attributed to like 80% of their PTS testers were just people who did that. That's it. Well, and if it wasn't for that contest, there'd be hardly anyone on the PTS. So when patches get released buggy, you only have yourself to blame. With that being said, PTS, or Update 5 will hit the PTS next week. Probably Monday or Tuesday, I imagine. So get out there and test it. All right, so things coming in Update 5. Let's start with the first thing. Veteran Mode City of Ash. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, man, can't wait for this. That was probably my favorite lobby dungeon. Well, Crypto Hearts was really cool, too, but I'm a Vampire Sork now, too, so that's going to be fun, but I love that dungeon. I can't wait to see what they have. Crypto Hearts for VR12s was really a good amount of difficulty, and so I think they're going to bring it here with the VR14 level stuff. I just can't wait to see what they created.
Nice. Now, are you sure this is going to be a fun dungeon for you? You just said you're a Vampire Sork, and from what I've seen, there's a lot of fire in there.
Well,
I'm a Sork. I'm fine.
City of Ash.
City of Ash. The whole thing is on fire, like everything. So are you sure you're excited? I mean, like...
I got a double bubble. You can't kill me.
All right. Cool. Cool. You remember the storyline from City of Ash, right? No? Okay. Well, when you first go in, Mehrunes Dagon, of course, this is the normal mode, is attacking the Wood Elf village.
Now I remember.
Okay. And you know at the end, after you beat the final boss, the guy jumps into the portal because Mehrunes Dagon kind of off, like, I'll close the portal, but you got to come in here. The storyline of this dungeon is we now form an expedition and go into the Deadlands. So that's going to be exciting.
That's a really strange question you asked me because you know I have the memory of Dory on Finding Nemo.
It's French. Means escape. Indeed. All right. Now, next thing that's coming up in Update 5, which Deltia and I were talking about a little bit later, and something that you and I, we were excited about from the single player, like, you know, the role-playing, kind of getting immersed in the world, new facial animations with face FX. Now, what do you think of face effects? What do you think it'll bring to the game as a whole?
I think that the story itself is already pretty alive. The Elder Scrolls is always known for having just great story. And the one thing that I have noticed is that when you're talking to a lot of the NPCs, they already show some emotion. Like in the one quest...
Except for Argonians.
They kind of only have one emotion.
They only have one monotone voice.
Stoic. That's okay, though. I love them anyway.
I like how the lore-wise for Argonians, they even say that. They're like, it's kind of hard to get into the head of Argonians with emotions because they only have that one vocal tone.
I still love them. I think it'll just add a little more depth when you're in that chat thing, when you're doing your quest. If you can see if they're like actually angry over something or if they're frustrated, and I think it's a great idea. I like that they're adding it.
Shameless plug, and this isn't for me, it's a shameless plug for someone else, but I believe Wicked's Full Immersion add-on, if you're into that, you should grab that, because I think what it does, if I remember correctly, I think it's Wicked's Full Immersion, they remove the text from the boxes. So you actually have to listen to the quest giver. Like, you can't just read the text and skip ahead, because I read faster than what they're speaking it. So, like, I just get, oh, okay, blah, 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 and hit, the next thing. all that stuff is blocked out until they finish, and then you can't even see the words or anything. It's just you see their face, and they talk, and when it's done, it gives you the option. So you're kind of forced to listen.
I hope it fixes that weird animation thing where when an NPC is talking, their bottom jaw slowly drifts to one side.
But you don't like the sideways jaw? It looks like they got into a fist fight with Mike Tyson, broke their jaw.
It's a little creepy, especially when it's a long paragraph that they're saying, and just little by little you can see their bottom jaw moving.
Nice. Deltia, what about you? What do you think about face effects? I know we talked about it a little bit earlier.
I'm a complete opposite end of the spectrum as Thais. I think it's a waste of development time at this point in the game, and I don't think it's needed that much, but I could be wrong. It's like I said, it's from my perspective. I don't think it's needed whatsoever. The graphics are great. I think work on getting the bugs that are still in this game fixed before you move on to little trinkets like that. That's me.
Okay. See, and here's the thing, even from my point of view, I think this will be great for the solo players. And for not just I'm not talking about single player players. I don't count them. But the people who like questing, and there are even in MMOs a large populace of people who love the MMOs for the atmosphere, for the fact that you can do a lot in an open world, but they don't necessarily like grouping. Like I've met quite a few people. Generally it's an older crowd of people who have that issue, but it's still, they like the solo experience, and I really think this will bring in a lot with just immersion, just complete immersion, and I'm going to love it because I was blown away at QuakeCon when I watched this because I'm just sitting there going, oh my goodness. I know, like Delta, you already said, I personally believe, other than some Asian MMOs, I'll caveat it with that this is some of the prettiest graphics in the game, period.
Completely agree.
Yeah, in MMO, currently, I think this is the prettiest game out
by far. Yeah.
There's some in development which will look pretty sick. Most of them are Asian MMOs, but we all know their gameplay sucks. So it's a pretty picture, but it goes after.
But the thing is, you can have so much tuning in this game. Like you can really pick what you want to shine, and then with the particle effects, they really made it so other computers can handle the game. I think graphically, that was a huge change. That was a huge change for Cyrodiil. I think that's what was needed.
Oh, I installed this game on Thais' old laptop, okay? This thing is 8 years old, and it wasn't even that good 8 years ago. It wasn't top of the line, it was medium. So it's a very old computer. Honestly, the range of the graphics engine between our computers, which are beastly, versus I felt like it was a completely different game. I was like, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
It was playable, but the graphics detail was much, because they tuned it down so it could handle older machines. But then when you look at it on mine, I was going over a hill in Cyrodiil the other day, and the god rays that was the sun coming up over the hill.
That is
I was like, oh my god. I literally had to turn my face away from the computer because it half blinded me for a second.
Yeah.
It was awesome.
That's incredible quality. But for me, Faithful Animations, I just, I think the game is so immersive for other reasons. For me, the dialogue is what separates it. You go to Canarthy's Roost or some of these newer zones, and they don't really say too much to you. But if you beat Dragonstar Arena, when I'm in Belkarth, the Craglorn city, they go, I saw you in the Dragonstar Arena. You were awesome. Those are things I remembered from Morrowind and Skyrim. That's Elder Scrolls. That's what makes it so immersive for me, is this is my character and I matter in this world. That's what I really, really like.
Which I think you might like the justice system that we're going to talk about a little later. But speaking of, in chat, our fan of show, lover TS fangirl, she's like, I'm of the questing sort, although I do enjoy grouping. So I think the facial animations will really enhance her experience.
Well, good.
Yeah, I mean, for those players who just like the questing and stuff like that, I think it really, really will. Thais and I were talking about this the other week. I know it's a little tangent, but it kind of ties in. One of the most memorable experience for both of us was in Skyrim with Markarth and the Order of Namira and the cannibals. And in particular, there's the one guy who was the meat merchant. When you talk to him, and you're like, wait a minute, I know you. he's like, yep, I sell the bloodiest meat in all the Reach. He gets a little laugh, and he gets this little half smile with the animations, because the animations were, it was a single-player game. They could do more with it. But the facial animations and that smile he gave you, kind of like the I know, you're like, I know you know me, and you know the meat that I sold people was probably human meat. That little thing right there, that facial animation, like, haunts me to this day. I immediately went werewolf and tore him apart just because I had to. But those little things like that stick with you, especially when you can tie emotion to a character animation. I think it'll be really great. Really, really great. Next up, let's see here. Werewolf updates. Cost reduction to werewolf transformation. I know they already did that. New abilities and new passives. These two, and stamina updates, which heavy attacks with all non-staff weapons now return stamina. And there's also going to be some more improvements to fall, which we'll talk about in the Guild Summit. But with Update 5, they're pushing more of these subtle changes to us. Deltia, do you have a werewolf character?
I've done level 10, but not currently, no. There's no reason to.
Nice. Did you enjoy the werewolf as a whole?
When you say enjoy, I enjoyed the animations, I enjoyed the graphics, I enjoyed that sort of thing, but there's really no benefit and a lot of negatives, so no.
Okay. I actually am a werewolf now, level 9, I think, and I'm having a lot of fun with it. I think I'd have more fun with it if the werewolf shift wasn't an ultimate. Like, I could just put it on my bar, and if it was a normal bar that maybe, I don't know, cut its animation time in half, like how long you could last in it, but make it just a normal ability that I could swap to.
That would be awesome.
I would love it.
It would be like the vampire. Like, make it like the vampire, where maybe you just turn into a werewolf for a second while you attack.
Something like that. It being an ultimate, the benefits of being a other than some of the passives, some of the benefits of being a werewolf don't outweigh it being a sucky ultimate, where you could have much better ultimates.
Well, look at bats. I mean, devouring bats, you can basically stay alive through anything for 5 seconds. Like, you can stay alive for, and it's 148 cost. In comparison to the werewolf, where I hit a little harder on my heavy attacks, and it costs 700. I mean, come on.
Yeah, it takes a while to build up, but they are making some changes to werewolf to try to make it a little bit better. So that's awesome, and of course, closing the gap for stamina versus magicka. So maybe we won't be calling this the Elder Staves Online anymore. I don't know.
It still is.
Oh, it still is now, but they're trying to move away from the Elder Staves Online. I understand that.
Bows can do pretty good, actually. I really like bows for ranged DPS in this game. It's starting to get in line. The change to snipe really helps it out.
Nice. Chat bubbles. Thais, what do you feel about chat bubbles?
No, I don't think they should be in the game.
Nameplates.
Thankfully, you'll be able to turn them off if you don't. Like, well, we sort of have chat bubbles.
But I also feel like nameplates shouldn't be in the game either.
Oh, Thais, you're a party pooper, and that's all I'm going to say to you.
Party pooper?
Party pooper butt.
Wow.
Party pooper butt.
Wow.
That's
right.
you. That sums you up in 3 words. Party pooper butt. Okay. Yep.
3 words? Yeah.
There you go.
Okay.
Well, I'm not fond of chat bubbles just because, I don't know. But then again, we have that Harlan's or whatever chat thing, the add-on that gives that little chat blob in the... So it's similar, but it takes a...
No, because that's for story. That's when NPCs are talking. It's not... They're not chat bubbles.
You would still see chat bubbles whenever the NPCs are talking. And I'm turning that off, because I don't want to be sitting in the... with the 5 companions and watching Lyris's chat bubble. I would just rather listen. Maybe if you don't play with sound on, maybe then you would like chat bubbles.
I don't really play with sound. I read everything. But there's some things that I don't read.
Them words.
Them words. Well, even though Thais doesn't like it, I think the chat bubbles is a step towards a few more MMO tropes, which, as long as they give us the option to turn them off and on, I'm fine. You know, like, I'm an MMO player, so that's whatever. I know we have a lot of single-player people who would absolutely hate it if it was forced upon you. Fear not, you can turn it off, and then it will not affect you in any way. But I think this is an opening up of the internal API, at least, to maybe allow, you know, Deltia, your nameplates
Oh, I can't wait.
Maybe.
I can't wait till you see Deltia Zerg bombing you on my Sork, and then you go, dang it, I hate that person. That's what I live for.
Turning it off. As long as they give us options, I'm fine with that. All right, next up on Update 5, grouping improvements like fixing issues with phasing. Oh, thank you, Divines.
But we don't have those problems.
We don't because we never do any quests without one another.
Oh,
now,
I think you're like lying there because you're always way ahead of me in experience.
Maybe that's because, you know, I'm like min-maxing. I'm moving stuff around, you know.
That's numbers.
Numbers.
Them numbers.
Yeah.
Them numbers. The math. But the math. That's right. But no, we don't do anything separate. Now, I just got my buddy into playing ESO, which I'm insanely excited about, but he doesn't get to play as often as I do. So I have a character that I'm playing with him. Now, if at any point in time, like, he's off and he starts playing during the day, and I'm at work or something, if he doesn't wait for me, then we're going to have phasing issues. Like, I won't be able to join him eventually. And that's kind of sucky. Because unfortunately, like with a game that is an MMO, they want us to group up. There's so many opportunities to explore together. And I will say this is one of the most fun games for us because we always do everything together. I always have you with me. You know, I haven't had to use my oh crap heal hardly at all. I don't have it on my bar anymore for most cases except for when you go werewolf. Because I know you always have a resto staff, so I trust that you heal. I don't really need a self-heal on my bar. I can put more DPS on there.
And usually I'm the one who dies anyway, not you.
Yeah. That's because I'm Blazing Shield all the time. Nothing can kill me with Blazing Shield.
What?
That's right. Nothing can kill me with Blazing Shield. Nothing at all. It's awesome. But when they phase you out, I hate that. Like, you go to help someone. Hey, I'll help you. Like, you don't even have to be questing them. Maybe someone's having an issue with something they can't beat, and you go to, hey, I'll come help, but I finished already. And as soon as you get up to them, you're phased out. That sucks. It really does. It separates players where this game should be bringing players together. Phasing is great for storytelling. It's fantastic. The technology is great for that. But by itself, it's not enough. All it does is create player separation, and that causes issues. So I'm glad that's coming in. What do you feel, FaZe?
For situations like you just said, like when you want to play with your friend, I'm glad that they're trying to fix that. I really am. It will allow players who've been playing for a long time to try and bring more people into the game and still spend time with them.
Okay. Deltia, what about you?
I don't really understand the issue. I mean, the phasing, it's basically like instancing a certain version of the quest, what you're on. If you've already completed it, the land changes for what you've done. Am I correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Personally, I haven't really experienced any big issue with that. So,
if you want to see a big issue with that, did you do Bleak Rock? Just
yep.
a little. I will make, like, if I had a character, like, if you make a character on Ebonheart, go through Bleak Rock, I will make a brand new one, and you come back to Bleak Rock. If anytime we enter the town, you won't be able to see me.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's a problem, but mainly I do my own questing, and then I group up to do things I have to group for. Like,
sure.
But so I really don't see a big issue with it, but for those that do, great, fix it.
Well, here's the issue I see with it, because it is so obnoxious, as T.S. Fangirl says. If you're trying to get your friends to play, let you have very solo-minded friends, yeah, that's great. Oh, when you get up to a dungeon, let's run through a dungeon. That's great. But what if it's somebody who you're trying to get into and you're trying to show them the game and be all excited about it? Oh, I can't group up with you for at least the first 12 levels so you get up to Fungal Grotto or whatever the dungeon is.
Yeah, that makes sense.
You know, if you're just trying to go and help a friend, hey, I'm brand new, I'm level 3, you know, but you can't see them unless you make a new character, and unless you're playing at the exact same times, you will eventually, other than that first time when you're questing together, you're going to lose them.
That's okay. Who needs friends?
Who needs friends?
Be right back. Use the restroom.
All right. Next up, new crafting dailies. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. I'm so glad I have points in crafting. Yes. Why are you shaking your head, Daze? Tell me what's going on here.
Because I don't understand why that would be needed, especially with all of the materials being so readily available, what could they possibly give us as a reward in the crafting dailies that would make them worth it?
Well, while leveling up quests and stuff like that, maybe that would help with that dreaded enchanting. Doing dailies, because they said you would get inspiration for your crafting, which is the crafting experience. You would get, what are they called? They're crafting writs or something like that, which you can turn in for rewards, are treasure maps, which lead to phased nodes that are higher yield, maybe give you special stuff. Maybe when you mine them up, you actually get things like grain solvents and those higher end materials that you don't normally get.
I honestly don't see a lot of people doing them. I really don't. Well, maybe you and 10 other people.
I will do enough crafting dailies for the entire mega server.
That's a lot of dailies.
I mean, that's what I'm going to do.
I mean, I don't even want to do the ones that are in Cyrodiil.
But again, this is similar to what were we talking about the other day? We were talking about Final Fantasy and money in the economy. And the people who spent all that time getting their crafters up. There are people out there who that is their game. That's what they like to do. Games where like crafting is going to mean something. I think a lot of players came to this game because the developers like crafting is going to be useful even up until endgame, which it currently still is, because even if you get drops from the raids and stuff, they're not legendary quality. You have to get a crafter to get you stuff and upgrade them. You know? I mean, technically you don't need to, but then you'd be spending more of the tempering alloys, because if you don't have the traits, you got to have more to make it worthwhile.
Maybe it's just because I don't enjoy doing daily quests. I feel like... Now, if it was for reputation, that I would do, because a lot of times...
Most people hate reputation, though. You love reputation.
I love that, because it usually always comes with special, superfluous rewards.
Whoa,
like mounts
big
and...
words.
Ooh, mounts and collectibles, things like that, which is why I would enjoy doing reputation
there's
dailies.
maybe they'll add a reward, like turn in 100,000 crafting writs and you get a pack mule to carry all your stuff.
Now that would be a reason why I would do it.
All right. Well, yeah. So your argument's not really with the dailies themselves. It's the reward scheme that you're not sure what it is.
Yeah, they would have to make it really worthwhile for me to sit there and just grind dailies.
I mean, I like dailies because they give me something to do. When you're done with the main storyline quest, like, that's one of the things that was kind of scared me about this game, because let's face it, you played Skyrim single-player games, they don't have a lot of, they have a lot of repeatability, but not on the character you finish. Once you finish all the quests in the zones, you can go back to the Whiterun and there's nothing there for you. Well, yeah. That's similar to this game. When you finish a zone out, there's not really any reason to go back to a zone currently. I like reasons to log in and get rewarded. Of course, rewards are what's going to make me do it, whether it be gold. Gold maybe is not enough, but there needs to be gold. But that's a way for people to actually supplement income as well.
Well, crafting dailies are awesome. Crafting dailies, that's an awesome idea. I never saw that coming.
Me either, and I'm gonna love it, because as I was telling Thais, some people do games just for crafting. I mean, look at me. I have more skill points in my crafts than I do in my combat skills.
Crazy.
Well, yeah, but I like crafting. I like doing it. I was talking to someone in Guild, and they're like, "Oh, can someone maybe?" I'm like, "I can do everything."
Yeah, it is kind of fun. It's fun being independent, but they're bringing back some value to crafting. Like you said, the drops. If you get valuable drops and you give it to someone to be crafted, yeah, most people don't do it that way. But then the 8-9 trait things, once they get really high value, like the double Munda Stone, you're going to see a lot of crafting coming back. And then there's people who rolled alts just to get that Nirnhone crafting started faster. So when it comes out, they can get it. So I'm excited about bringing crafting back.
Well, that's always going to be a thing, and because it's such a time investment, let's face it, eventually there will be a lot of people up there with 8 and 9 traits. I'm getting near 8 on everything.
Right.
I almost have 8 in everything. I can tell you I'm probably in the top 10 percentile of players, because I've talked to people like, I haven't been doing it, but it's such a time investment to do. People forget about it. The people who do have it may quit. So over time, for a period of time, like if a lot of people would leave the game, because that's just what generally happens, not for any real reason, they just, I'm going to step away for a few months. So your 8 trait crafter is gone. That just opens a market to me going, hey guys, I'm still playing. I still have all 8, 9 traits ready. What do you guys need? People will friend you. People will talk to you. Let's face it, people need new gear fairly frequently. So that it helps. And these new dailies are going to be fantastic. Just things to do. Reasons to log in the game. As much as people hate dailies, what game was it that did not have any dailies? They're like, we won't do dailies. We won't do dailies. I forget what it was. It was an MMO.
Guild Wars 2?
No, I don't know if it was that one. But anyway, the short story here long story short is people after they got the end game were like, as much as I hated the idea of dailies, like when it started, I have no reason to log into the game now.
Right.
Like on a day-to-day basis. I log in when it's raid night or PvP night, but the other 6 nights of the week, 5, 6 nights of the week, I don't even log in. And I mean, some people are like, oh, that's good for me. I like doing that. But to me, like, as an MMO player, Deltia, you log in daily. You have stuff you do. It's like, not like it's a chore, but it is. You have a routine that you're like, I got to do this. I got to log in and do this.
I got to get my dailies done. Yeah,
I got to get my dailies done because that's how I'm going to get money. It's how I'm going to get my rewards. It's going to keep me going. It keeps me logging in. And it also, as much as you might look at it as oh, crud, it's making me log into the game, it keeps you connected with your friends.
It's a social thing. It's a social thing.
It is.
That's all it is.
You log in, you do your dailies. Oh, look, Deltia's on. Hey, Deltia, Hey, after I'm done with my dailies, you want to run a dungeon? Well, you probably wouldn't have thought that if you didn't have dailies. That kind of stuff. All right, Thais is looking at me. You disagree?
No, your opinion is valid.
Okay.
Well, awesome. The dailies thing, it gives you a slow, monotonous way to do stuff you would never do. Like, for instance, let's say the dungeon, the VR dungeon. After I smoked it 2 times, got a speed run, got the kill thing done, why am I going to come back to it? No reason, right? So that's the reason to get it done is the Undaunted dailies or what have you. That's why dailies are good. And then like achievements are good for the same sort of reason where I wouldn't do a certain quest, but since it's a daily or an achievement, I do it and you experience more content that way.
Yeah, like Deltia, why would you be out in Skyrim slaying giants if it wasn't for a giant slayer achievement?
Yeah, or I mean the Undaunted stuff. That's another daily they're bringing back. Thank you, God. I am ecstatic about that. I am ecstatic about Undaunted dailies. Mm-hmm.
Oh, I love the idea of repeatable dungeons. All right, but before we talk about that, because we will talk about that a little later, let's move in, though, the last really big thing coming with Update 5, because they're going to have PvP fixes and other things. Dungeon revamp. Undaunted repeatable quests, which we'll talk about later. Dungeon scaling, which is exciting. And just a bunch of other stuff with Dungeon. The whole Dungeon revamp system is going to be exciting. I love the idea of scaling dungeons. You get a daily, which I'm hoping, an Undaunted daily going, hey, go clear normal Fungal Grotto. That's a level 12 dungeon. I don't want to do that on my VR14.
Why not?
Well, because the rewards scale. You notice like the gold drops and stuff like that. Item drops you get in there are like whites and greens, because at 12 you're like, that's all you get, whites and greens. That's great. And they're worth like 5 gold if you sell them. Well, VR14 stuff are worth 100 and some gold, or have set bonuses and stuff like that. Those things don't come in until later on, but you can scale it up so that way it's the mobs are VR14. It won't be as hard as a veteran dungeon, but the rewards will be based off yourself.
I'm excited for dungeon scaling. I really completely am. But am I one of the only people who's okay with being overpowered to get it done quicker?
Well,
I have no problem with that. I mean, we're MMOers. We're going to do crap that benefits our character.
Getting it done quicker, yes, I could see that. But some people don't like. I don't know about you, but like even in Warcraft was the best experience because that's my longest MMO I've ever played. I went back and did the old dungeons again once the achievement system came out. But I had no desire whatsoever to go back and do it again when like if someone needed it for something. It's like, I can clear it for you, but you don't really get any experience when you have a super high level in there. It's you just don't get rewarded for it. The stuff that drops sells for minimal amount of things. There's nothing that really benefits you in a great way.
Yes, it does. Out of the goodness of your heart, you are helping somebody else.
All right, so your karma aligns a little bit.
That is a reward.
We're MMO players. We don't have karma. It's bad.
I have a moral compass.
Stop it, Argonian. Just stop it.
They have a moral compass.
Go sacrifice yourself for a tree. We're done. All right. So that's update 5 in a nutshell. Exciting. Get out there on the PTS and test it. Please do it. Thank you. All right. Last bit of news we have for this week is the Tales of the Dead 2 winners were announced. Yes, that's right. They had that little contest, and they picked 3 winners. The winners are, of course, Visinator, Winnower, and I can't even pronounce that one.
Neither can I.
All right. Someone else said not even these can pronounce. So there we go. Congrats to all the winners. They received a $25 gift certificate to the Bethesda store, and we all know there's some awesome swag on there. I have 2 t-shirts, and Thais has a Evan Hart Pact hoodie. Good stuff. Gotta say, I do like the quality of stuff you get off the store, too. Like, it's nice.
Did you want to read it?
No, we're not going to do that. All right. That's it. Awesome. Closing that off. All right. Time for us to move on to our Elder Scrolls discussion topic, which is, following from last week, ESO Guild Summit, day number 2. So we're going to follow the second half of the 2-day summit. And things we're going to cover specifically is gameplay and itemization, writing and lore, zones and content, and of course, the justice system. Yay. I'm totally going to be an enforcer and just beat on my wife over here who's going to be a thief.
Yes, I'm going to be stealing everything.
All right. Arguably, in my opinion, this is one of the most important things in an MMO. Itemization and gameplay stuff. Because let's face it, if you're not getting rewarded, if gear isn't good or isn't fun to get, like gear with stats on it, I'm sorry, it's just not fun. It's not something fun you get. Set bonuses are fun. You know, get something, wear multiple pieces. That's something to make you go after. So now they're going to be changing a bunch of different stuff with itemization to hopefully improve build diversity. They're also making moves towards making stamina and magicka deal comparable damage. And that one weapon isn't best for all damage specs. Destro Staff, Restro Staff. Yeah, that's going to probably change as well. The first major push that they made towards achieving these rebalancing efforts included heavy attacks, restore magicka and stamina. That was in Update 4. And I love that a lot. Like, a whole lot. It's great. Now, they're also going to do a buff to stamina-based abilities. We'll talk about that a little bit later. There's a few other little things that we could talk about. They're trying to make damage more competitive between magicka and stamina, which is good. And there's also going to be new AVA abilities for AoE damage, stealth detection, healing debuffs, and stamina-based heals, which are pretty awesome, to be honest. All right. And they're also making changes to ultimate abilities and the way that ultimate generation works. As, you know, I guess they're trying to reconcile the difference between fast-ticking dot stacking builds and slow attacking tanks to even out the rate at which different builds generate ultimate. Because, Deltia, how fast do you generate ultimate on your Dragon Knight?
On my Dragon Knight? I mean, I can do, if there's 10 mobs, I can drop 2 standards in 10 seconds.
Wow. I don't generate near that much.
You're a Templar. Of course not.
That sucks. Anyway. All right. Actually, you know what? Here's some things that they're talking about, a little bit of changes here. And let's see. They talked about haste and annulment. Why don't you read these things right here?
Ooh, haste. I love me some haste.
Haste. Because of light attack weaving is not currently very useful. Abilities like this which have fallen below the usefulness threshold will be improved to feel much more useful and powerful. The plan is to buff up lesser used abilities, not to nerf the already popular abilities. Annulment no longer gives a flat 50% reduction, but the value of the shield granted has been increased by 150%, but only works against spells. Shadow Cloak. QA has been hard at work to identify the effects of using every single ability in the game with/against a character who is cloaked. So they are aware of all the issues and will be working on resolving them for future updates.
All right, now the section we're talking about here is some of the changes they're doing with abilities and morphs. Here's something I thought was really neat. They're talking about changing the way that class abilities work so that they're more useful for stamina builds. Thank you. Possibilities include morphs to class abilities that would allow them to cost and scale off stamina instead of magicka. Yeah, that's pretty awesome. Deltia, what do you think about that?
That's really good. Yeah, I like that. I mean, ultimately, I don't think any of these are going to work until they make a third resource pool. I just don't think it'll work until they do that. I honestly don't. But it's a good way to think about it.
What about you, Thace? The ability to morph abilities to use either magicka or stamina. Because right now, all class abilities are magicka based. So if you're planning on making a stamina character, which I know you're like, why would I ever do that? But if you were, the problem is you kind of have to go a little bit of a mixture between magicka or stamina in order to, you know, be able to use your class abilities.
I really do think that that should be an option, because it shouldn't be the Elder Staves Online. You should be able to play, I can't believe I'm going to say this, you should be able to play any way that you want.
Okay.
You really should. And to make everything require magic, because I know that when you and I are playing, if I'm in werewolf form, I need you to keep me alive. There's many times you've let me die because you have no magicka for healing.
Mm-hmm.
Which, if it worked off of stamina, you'd probably be able to keep me alive.
Well, if you didn't take excessive damage, of course.
If you healed better, shielded better.
I don't have shields. I only have my Templar heal. So.
Okay, I was just saying.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Now, some of the things we're going to talk about here is they're trying to make a couple changes, which these are what I'm really excited about. They highlighted, now again, I'm going to state this, these are all... Okay, actually, before we start, someone did mention something in chat. This is, was it Res Raider?
Res Rider.
Res Rider. Why do folks think a third resource pool should be that would be lore appropriate? What do you think? What do folks think a third resource pool should be that would be lore appropriate?
Mental. Make it mental fatigue or something, because if you just make it willpower, call it that. So like it's just something you do, like I'm gonna break CC. I can only have so much willpower to do it, but I can do it.
I'm gonna mention this right now. Look back at any of the games, and like they change. The only thing that's really the same is the fact that health, stamina, and magicka is, you know, those are the names. But if you look at Skyrim versus Oblivion or Morrowind or any of the other ones, nothing stays the same from game to game. I really don't think adding a third resource, whether it be willpower, endurance, I don't care what you want to call it, would be lore breaking in any way whatsoever. Because look at the difference between Skyrim and let's just talk Morrowind. Morrowind had the standard D&D class systems, strength, constitution, willpower, intelligence, that all affected your character. Skyrim was the first one that said, all right, we're going to do away with the D&D stats and we're just going to do health, stamina, and magic. It was a cleaner, simpler approach, but, I mean, I really think this back-end character stuff, if you look back at the genesis of the game, the very beginning, the stats were not simple like they are in this game. They were not. You had all sorts of stats that you could move all over the place. So adding another resource that went over, that controls your defensive stuff, I don't think is lore breaking. And to be honest, it is just better gameplay. eventually you hit a point where when does lore trump gameplay? This, I don't even think, this is a non-subject for me. Like, show me in the lore where it specifically says that only health, stamina, and magic are viable. You know, it doesn't.
Well,
Face, what do you feel?
Wait, did Deltia have something to say first?
Go ahead.
I think what people don't quite understand is that no matter what, this will always be an Elder Scrolls game. There will always be the Elder Scrolls lore, the races, the area, everything that we're used to will always be there. That's what makes it an Elder Scrolls MMO.
Yeah.
But you still have to consider the aspect that it is an MMO. And another resource at this point is honestly, it's needed to try and balance out everyone else's gameplay styles. Because you don't like casting magic. You've never casted magic. It's not the way that you like to play. So if you're stuck having to use magic, you're not enjoying the game as much as you should, when you should be enjoying your MMO.
Sure.
Adding another resource is something that they need, and it won't be lore breaking. It will be helpful to the game that makes it an MMO.
Deltia, what do you have to say?
What I have to say is, first off, people don't understand why it's important. Okay, why it's important. So, as a caster, I have one thing I can use. One resource. That's it. So if I want to block, run, dodge, sprint, I can use a second resource that really has no other value to me. Flip it to the other side. Now, I'm a stamina user. I have stamina that does damage, does abilities, does attacking, etc. What happens? Well, that I have to now dodge, sprint, block, etc. It doesn't work. You can't do it that way because you're out of stamina, so now your DPS is basically nothing because of that. That's the problem that I don't think people really understand. It's why it's a problem. It's that.
I agree wholeheartedly. And as you said in game, Skyrim was the least Elder Scrolls of all the Elder Scrolls games, and you thought that was a bad comparison. Well, if that's being the case, Skyrim is lore-breaking. Like, the whole game is lore-breaking compared to the old stuff. ESO is lore-breaking. The whole game is lore-breaking. If you're looking at the way they developed the game. The thing is, just look at the games. Not even the MMO. Just look at the other games and see how they change. Because they do. They change stuff to make fun gameplay.
But that's the progression of a series.
Yeah, and adding a third resource in the MMO version
would be the next viable progression.
It's a progression in the series. I don't think it's at all lore breaking.
No.
Because it would be like a hidden stat. It doesn't even matter if it's not even a hidden stat. It's a progression in the series.
Yes.
And something like this may possibly go into the next Elder Scrolls game. They add this in, the single player may have a defensive stat. You don't know. They might pull stuff from ESO.
If they're going to add a third resource, what they should actually do is add two more. Underneath Magicka, they should add Willpower, which would be able to control so, and so. Underneath Stamina, they should have Endurance, which would control whatever, so that it's even.
You know, here's something that's not lore breaking. Whatever stat you're using the most, you should be given an option. Like if you notice you have, most in stamina, like all your abilities are stamina, you're all morphed, they should then just use Magicka for your defensive stuff. You should sprint and it should drain Magicka. That's.
Oh my gosh. I would never be able to cast anything.
Well, for you it would still remain stamina, because you mostly magic abilities. Like, you'd be able to choose, are you a stamina-based user, whatever, or a hybrid? Make them drain both if you decide to be a hybrid. I don't care. Take half from each. Just do it all. Doesn't matter.
Oh, I like my idea the most.
All right.
Magicka, Stamina, and then you'll have Willpower and Endurance.
Yep.
Now, here's some things speaking of things that are changing, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this because there's some other things we want to hit, but they are making some pretty neat changes to make stamina more viable in terms of damage by changing core abilities.
TES Fangirl says, you have always had to choose between Magicka or Stamina as a focus. The problem with TESO is that it isn't balanced. I'd prefer the balance be improved without having an additional resource, which is what they are honestly trying to do.
But they won't have a balance if they still make stuff drain from stamina, if that's what you're using.
Because everything drains from stamina.
Yeah, there is no balance as long as your defensive stats favor one resource over the others. And that's what people aren't getting.
Yep. You can't. You can either dodge roll and survive, or you can do abilities. Now, if you're a mage, you can dodge roll and survive and do abilities. That's the difference.
Teleport away.
Yeah,
and set people on fire.
Blink away.
But while I am having to conserve my stamina, going, I have to always make sure I have 30% stamina so I can dodge if the circle hits. I'm having to hold attacks and abilities. My DPS is not going to be near as much. And they're like, well, why is your DPS so low? Well, because I have to manage my resource so I can actually defend myself.
While I'm sprinting in circles around them.
Yeah, like...
Dodging, running, blocking.
Just because the bar's full. So I don't like my sprint bar being full, or my stamina bar. I'm just going to drain it. Who cares? And still do all the damage.
What'd you say, Deltia?
Oh, I was going to say, I mean, it's like cheesy. If I play my Sork in PvP, all I do is put a movable up, and I use no stamina. I don't have to block. And I can roll, I can dodge, I can jump, I can sprint, I can do whatever. If I use a two-hander or a bow, I get one of the choice or the other.
And that TS Fangirl said that maybe you choose a burst sign that would set your health, stamina, magic, or resources and how they're used when you go to character creation. I wouldn't mind doing something. I wish you'd be able to change it, because that's the thing. You can respec and change your stuff, so you should be able to change your burst sign or whatever the case may be, going, all right, I'm making this guy, I want my defensive abilities to pick from this resource. As long as they gave us an option to mitigate how the resources are used, but they don't. And that's the problem.
But this game is always evolving, so you never know what they're going to come up with.
Well, I don't think the way they're going with it, by just upping our damage and reducing... They can reduce all they want. We're still going to hit the problem of we still have to use it until they get it through their heads. It may take some time, and Deltia and I screaming at them very furiously, but it'll eventually happen. Yeah. All right, we're going to move on before we spend too much time on this. Some of the abilities are changing. This is something I kind of like. They're increasing the damage and radius of cleave to be more competitive with impulse, which is pretty sweet. They're reducing the cast time and increasing the damage of uppercut to make it the bread and butter damage ability for two-handed line. And Atropos actually said, after seeing the ability used, it looks much faster and more powerful. Because right now, who uses it? It takes too long. It's like a second cast time for a melee ability. But if they made it a little faster, I would probably put it on my bar and have to drop something else. Maybe like Executioner or something, because who knows?
Yeah, if they made it in line with like Snipe, is what they're probably trying to do.
Probably. Because right now, like, I was already trying to think how I'm going to do my build, because if this is really, like, I like the two-hand ability. It was really powerful. It makes your next move you do more powerful. That's going to be great. What could I drop from my bar to use it? And I'm actually kind of tossing up in the air between Critical Charge and Executioner, because Momentum also looks pretty sweet, because now they're just doing weapon power by a flat 20%.
That's going to be a huge change, yes.
That's going to have to be on my bar. And it has a hot over time, and there's going to be a morph that allows you to just use the heal by just using the ability again. I'm going to pretty much have to do, like, Momentum, Uppercut, and, like, Executioner, and Critical Charge is going to have to be gone, and I'll have to put my charge on my second bar or something.
It's going to be a sick change.
It is. And this is just something that'll really make, like, 20% flat damage for 30 seconds just by keeping the buff up. Yes, please. Yeah,
imagine that with I know we're rambling here, but imagine that with Fighters Guild. Wow. The Fighters Guild passive.
With the Flawless.
Yeah.
That's going to be sick. But those are things they're just doing to try to make stamina a little bit more in line. Now, we're going to move off of that, and we're going to talk about synergies.
Ooh.
Zos also wants to make sure that all synergies are fully useful, so that players always want to use them, not avoid them like with some of the more annoying synergies.
Like Radiant Aura? No one wants to use that.
No one wants to use that, no.
Eric also plans to move towards more contextual synergy usage, where synergies will only prompt themselves as available if certain conditions are met, like Blood Altar and Templar Cleanse currently work. The goal is to reduce the overall number of press X prompts you have at any given time, but to increase the usefulness of synergies that players do use.
Okay. Well, how we feel. I love the idea of synergies in the game, being not able to do them, but being able to really group. I think this is where, like, just watching like top guilds and the top players who work together, using synergies, knowing when to drop them at the right times and stuff of that nature, really bring together the team dynamic together really well. But I don't know how many people actually use synergies other than maybe like Supernova.
I don't know about you, but anytime I see a press X, I press X. Because it doesn't matter what it is. When I see that pop up on my screen, I'm like spamming the X button. Yeah,
but in certain situations, such as Radiant Aura, or arguably speaking, when you drop your Thunder Elemental, your Atronach, your Lightning Atronach, me channeling into that loses my DPS.
Yeah, it's a terrible.
What? Do you see how much damage that guy does?
I don't think it does a lot for him.
Wait a minute. Deltia, did you just say that was a terrible ultimate?
It's a terrible ultimate.
Are you serious?
We do have a show to do, guys.
Okay, what you have negate. Negate is the most powerful ultimate in the game. You can stun lock an entire group, add 15% crit, and they can't cast. Get rid of the little crazy Atronach.
I love my Atronach. He has saved our butts so many times. I put him on the ground and I go, just let him do all the work. And we stand there and we live because my Atronach is just beast mode, smacking and shocking the crap out of every enemy around me. I love that Atronach.
All right, we're going to save this discussion for just a little later. Okay. Because we're talking synergies here.
Well, it's a synergy.
I know. And the main reason why I brought that up was if you look at the math, yes, he does more damage when I'm channeling. But does his damage while him channeling add up to him doing his normal attacks and my damage added?
Nope.
No, it doesn't. So while, yeah, his numbers are going up, by himself, let's just say he does 500 damage by himself, just in his full duration. I do 600 damage by myself. And when I'm energizing it, he goes up to 800. Well, 800 damage, but together we do 1100 if I just don't use the ability. That's 300 more damage.
Yes, you're throwing him numbers out, bro?
I know. I really wish like our side was live so you could see her face. Her eyes are like wide open at the moment.
It's just, I mean, I hate to hurt your feelings, but it's a terrible ultimate.
Okay, you know what? That's fine. That's okay.
And I'm only talking.
Hold on. Next time you're dying, I am not going to call Fluffy. He won't help you.
All right.
Okay. And then when you die, me and Fluffy are going to have a party on your corpse.
And then I'll ask where your ultimate was. I don't care what ultimate. You just don't bring him in. Put negate down and see if I do any better.
All right, we'll see.
Because 15% more crit is pretty nice.
That's good.
Anyway, the main idea of this is removing those useless synergies.
I'll just bring Pookie.
I hate Pookie. To make it more useful. And I think it would be something that's kind of neat to do. Because right now, yeah, like in your case, you just spam it whether or not it's good or not. But they need to be something that you think about. Like when you hit them at the right time.
Shiny and it flashes.
Well, I don't think there's a problem with synergy right now. There's some that are obviously underwhelming, but look at Luminous Shards. Look at Necrotic Orb. Those are some juggernaut synergies. Look at Talons. That's a really good one.
Tanks love you with Luminous Shards. Like that, just drop it on the tank and they will like French kiss you.
I think it's a really cool dynamic to the game that other games don't have, is you have to think about it. And yes, you're exactly right. If you hit the stupid taunt one, guess what happens? You just wasted tons of DPS. So it's not just something you can just spam and just go crazy with. You really have to time it right.
Right. And by changing it so that they reduce the number of press X you see on your screen, but make it more useful as a whole, people will want those abilities. Because I know people right now who they look at two abilities and go, all right, well, this one says it provides a more powerful ultimate, or this one increases the ability. Well, I'm going to pick the one that just increases my abilities because who's going to hit the ultimate or whatever the case may be, or the ultimate may suck. You know, it's like, why do the synergy? Why do it at all? I don't know. All right, so synergies are getting a revamp, which is pretty sweet. Global changes for abilities. They're trying to make more clear ability-derived stats. Abilities will very obviously scale off either stamina or magicka. and use the relevant crit chance for that resource. Now, this was a problem, especially for Templars at the beginning. If you were, like, the Adric Spear line, which is arguably your tanking or your melee abilities, all scaled off spell damage. Like, why? You didn't have spell damage. Like, your biting jabs, which is arguably one of the, I think, one of the best single target attacks in the game. It's arc. It does a lot of damage. It was scaling off spell power, and if you weren't a full caster, why would you do it? It was useless. So I think that's going to be kind of neat. Let's see what the next buff is. They're looking at ability uses versus CC immune bosses. So changing the way that CC works on bosses to make it more viable would be kind of neat.
That's kind of cool. What I think Atropos said, and I don't remember when he said it, but it would be kind of cool if NPCs had crit.
Mm-hmm.
Then Impenetrable wouldn't be completely useless, and you'd have to deal with spike damage versus a flat line. I think that would be kind of cool.
Other MMOs had crit damage.
Right.
Like, again, Warcraft, one of the best rating 1 games out there. Tanks were, at one point, needed to have a certain level of, I forget what the stat was. They removed it eventually, and they made it so that as long as you were a tank and had an ability, you had it. But bosses could crit, and you had to have a special crit resistance up to like 6% in order to make sure you weren't crit. Because if a boss would crit you, it could one-shot you. Okay, off. So yeah, that would be kind of neat. Okay, but they're talking about, you know, there's certain abilities, specifically, let's talk about Templar, because that's what I know. Binding Javelin is the worst ability in the world to use on a boss, because it's all CC, and bosses are CC immune. But they're talking about maybe making a secondary effect that if a boss is CC immune, it gives a temporary buff to the player instead. Like increases their armor or to make those abilities that are technically CC stuff useful. Because I wouldn't put Binding Javelin on my bar at all if I was fighting a boss. It's worthless. It does nothing. Very little damage, too much magicka cost, and while the CC is great for PvP, it does nothing in PvE. So, blocking during ability usage. They're trying to change the way blocking works to make blocking feel more responsive, and ZOS wants there to be a trade-off between acting defensively and your offensive potential. Some alternative treatments are being considered.